Hi, welcome to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. Hey, this is almost 2016, and you know what? We have my buddy here, Dr. John Leach. Now, John Leach, he's been on here before. So, Leach, Dr. John Leach, well, he's been on here before 2 or 3 times, and I was just looking at one of his shows back there in June, you know. But here we're going to start the 2016 out with explain. A lot of people have the wrong idea about Kwanzaa, and so Dr. Leach is going to give you some information. You know what I mean? You've heard the word and you wonder, what does it mean? Welcome, Dr. Lee, to Ed Brown Show.
It's nice to be back with you, Ed.
And Merry Christmas, and then we talk about the new year.
All of the things. We got Hanukkah and Christmas and Kwanzaa. This is a period of the year that we have a lot of things to celebrate.
Yeah. But you know what? A lot of people don't understand Kwanzaa, and they sometimes interpret it as a religious organization. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, let me just say to you, Kwanzaa is not a religious, and it's not a political. It really is an affirmation. It's a way of saying, yes, African American people are people of history, of the present, and of the future. And Kwanzaa gives us an opportunity to reflect on some of our past and to look at some of the aspects of African American culture. Now, Kwanzaa was originally started by Dr. Karinga in the 1960s, 1966 particularly, when he created it. Now, if you recall, and as I know as a history buff, you know that the 60s were, to some extent, some turbulent
times.
I
call it.
And there was, in some ways, maybe a kind of a rebirth for the African American community.
After the Korean War. You know?
Yes, and then there was so much going on in civil rights, and this was a period in which that we were looking at turmoil, but also looking at acknowledgement of who we were as a people. And so Dr. Karinga wanted to look at some ways that we could acknowledge that. And so that's what helped to bring the inception of Kwanzaa. And Kwanzaa is celebrated starting on December the 26th and going until the 1st of January. There are 7 days in which that we celebrate Kwanzaa. Now, Kwanzaa, for me and my family, we've been having an annual celebration every year for the past over 20 years.
Wow.
And what we do at that time, Mr. Brown, is we gather our family, my sons and my daughter and nieces and nephews and cousins, and then we invite friends that we have, and some of those individuals have been at every one of our Kwanzaas. And some, it may be their first or second year coming to our Kwanzaa celebration. And what we do is that we invite, let people know, we tell them what day that we plan to celebrate Kwanzaa. We generally try to celebrate it on one of the Saturday or Sunday. It's a little more convenient for people to come, and so we do several things during our Kwanzaa, and we can talk more about that. But that's sort of kind of a beginning of of Kwanzaa, where it sort of came from. And one of the, I think, significant things is that over the years, more and more people have been recognizing Kwanzaa as a, what I'll say, legitimate, in a sense, time to acknowledge. And one of the things that Kwanzaa does is acknowledges kind of the harvest of things. And so when we gather, we do things like acknowledging our ancestors, and we acknowledge and talk about the principles that Dr. Karenga helped to establish.
And you want to name some of those?
Sure, and let me do that by saying that if you look at a picture of the Kanara, and the Kanara is the instrument that holds 7 candles, and the 7 candles represent the 7 principles. And each day of Kwanzaa is a different principle. And so what we do is that when we are into our formal part of our celebration, and we talk about and move into the principles, we will start with the first principle. And the first principle of Kwanzaa is called Umoja. That's U-M-O-J-A. And it stands for unity. Unity in terms of us working and playing together. And the candle that represents unity is the first candle, which the first one is the black candle. And that is the one that is in the middle of the Kanara. And so we start there, and when we're doing our celebration, we will light that first candle, and then we will use that particular candle to light the others. But as we do this, and one of the, again, wonderful things about celebrating Kwanzaa, and particularly for us, we go from the very youngest, sometimes 3 and 4 year olds, to the oldest, the senior members. And I'll just say one other thing, and I'll come back to talk about these principles. But when we start our celebration, we will find out who among all of us gathered is the oldest. And then what we do is we ask that senior member, the elder, for permission to proceed with our celebration. And that's a wonderful thing. And most of the time, we've had generally someone who is in their 90s.
Oh, wow.
And,
great.
and once that they give us permission, then we can proceed on with our celebration. But to go back to the 7 principles, so I introduced Umoja. Now the second day, which is Kuji Chakalia. It's an interesting, it has a nice little rhyme, Kuji Chakalia.
What does it mean?
And now it means self-determination. And that's sort of making up your mind to keep on keeping on. So, you know, we have to decide a lot of times, what are we going to do? We have to determine, and we do a lot of things of setting goals for ourselves and then proceeding to accomplish those goals. And one of the nice things at this time of the year, since, as you said, we're getting ready to move into 2016.
Right.
And you know, people make New Year's resolutions and all.
Don't we?
And so this is a good time for people to reflect on where they've been and say, now, here's where I want to go. Here's what I hope to accomplish moving forward. And I'm determined that I'm going to do those. And so one of the things that happens is that sometimes some of the individuals who are gathered will talk about what their desires, like some of the young people who are like in high school, and some will be seniors, and they're talking about the things that they are going to pursue. What are they going to do? And then others will have other goals or plans. And so,
well, how do you do that? How do you control that without everyone wanting to talk about their own situation?
Well, we do.
You said the senior is first, the oldest.
Yeah.
Well, he starts it off, or she starts it off.
We start to organize it, Mr. Brown, but we don't rush. We try and let people talk, because it's important for folks to be able to give voice to things, and for others gathered to hear, because they can be helpful to those as they proceed to move toward their plans and their goals. But that's the second one, and generally that will then be the first red candle, and we'll have someone come up and take the black candle and light the the first red candle. And we may ask, because many of the particularly young people have been to our Kwanzaa celebration, and we'll ask them, tell us what Kujichagulia is. And they're able to tell us. And we might even ask them, so what does that mean to you? You know, and how does self-determination come up for you? And so then our third day of Kwanzaa, our third principle, is called Ujima, Ujima. Now that stands for collective work and responsibility. Another way of saying that, it's teamwork. You know, nothing gets done alone or by yourself. We need togetherness.
Right.
And so one of the other things that is, this gives people another opportunity to be able to gather support for things. Now, again, if you remember, you go back a little ways, because you and I both have been...
seen a few things.
Yeah, we've seen a few things. And so you know that back, quote, in the day...
in the 60s.
And before that, we were very cooperative. We did a lot of things together, particularly when we were doing farming and all, that there was, you know, people worked together to produce the crops. And
sharecroppers.
There you go, sharecroppers. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And so now this time we go to the first green candle, and then that is, we have another person come up and take the black candle and light the green candle. And then we will again ask them, so tell us, what does collective work and responsibility, how have you used collective work and responsibility this year?
And they give you examples.
And they give you their examples and all. And then, of course, now the fourth principle is called Ujama, which is cooperative economics. And the key here is economics.
Economics, right.
The key is there. But we also want to continue that cooperativeness. And so, you know, and I've heard you talk a lot about, you know, us having businesses,
economic
and supporting our
independence.
businesses and so forth.
Right.
And so that's a lot of what this principle is
It's
all
about
about. Now,
economics.
Economics, and it's everybody sort of putting in their share of the work or the wealth or the willpower to get
Right.
something done. So now,
Setting goals.
well, you got to set a goal.
Yeah.
You got to have have a
Yeah.
plan.
Right.
And then you gotta stay with it. You
Right.
gotta have fortitude.
Right.
Keep going and
Right.
all. And you need people to help you.
Right.
You need others
Working
to help
together,
you.
that's
Working
key.
together.
That's
Very important.
Very important.
Yeah.
Right.
Now the fifth principle is Nia. And you might even know some folks who have the name or their parents named them Nia. I have a very good friend, and they
Now, how
named
do you spell that?
Nia.
N-I-A.
Yeah, Nia.
Yeah.
And that stands for purpose, okay? And that's, it's when you have a purpose, you have a plan, okay? And without purpose, without a plan, we're likely to not get where we think we want to go. And so that's very crucial. I mean, you have to have a plan. You have to be committed to it. You have to have people help you and so on. So all of these principles are connected, all right? Now that again is moving to the second red candle.
The second red
The
candle.
second red candle. That's Nia. Now, the next principle, and that's the sixth principle, and the sixth day of Kwanzaa, is Kuamba.
Cool.
That stands for creativity. Now, creativity, again, fits in to how we do things and how we use our creativeness. And we are a very creative people, okay? When we stop and we reflect on all of the contributions that the African American people have made to this country, there's been a whole lot of creativeness
well,
that has been exhibited.
Yeah, have been exhibited. Recently, is Nigerian doctor is dealing with a situation called concussions.
Yes,
and,
yes.
And actually, they made a movie out
Right,
there.
that's the movie that Will Smith is starring in.
Will, that's correct.
Yeah.
And also the Republican candidate that's
Ben Carson.
Ben Carson.
Yes.
These are things that are just outstanding. No one else have actually achieved these things. Okay.
Yeah, and then then we're back over here to the green candle, and then we are moving toward the final principle, which is called Imani, I-M-A-N-I, and that's faith.
Faith.
Okay.
In each other.
That's right. We have to believe. We have to have faith that we can accomplish our purpose through cooperative work,
through togetherness,
and through unity and self-determination.
Right.
You hear how all those things are being put together. So that's what the 7 principles represent. And I want to also share just a couple of other key elements of what we do. You may have noted that I have some fruit.
Yeah, I was wondering, was it real? I
vegetables. Yes. Now, what this represents is these are the crops and the fruits. Sometimes we have nuts and we have some vegetables, and they are the results of the harvest. So that's what that represents.
That's apples.
Yeah, in
bell
this instance,
peppers,
I got
bananas.
apples and some bananas. I could have had some grapes, or I didn't have any around the house.
But it represents.
But it
fruit.
represents what we harvest from our labors. Okay. Now, we'll also say to you that there is a small cup
Yes.
that's sitting here.
Yeah, I see it on the left here.
Yes,
Yeah, right.
and
No.
and that cup is it's the unity cup. Now, for us, what we do is we use that for a libation segment of our ceremony. And early on, in fact, after we have gotten permission from the elder, we take time to bring into the setting our ancestors.
Okay.
And for us, what we do is that we have some dirt that I was very fortunate. One of the trips that my daughter made to Africa and went particularly to Kenya. And when she came back, she brought some of the dirt. And we've kept that. And so every year at Kwanzaa, we have the dirt in a dish, and then the unity cup is filled with water. And so as we are bringing in to the room our ancestors, and when I say bring them into the room, it's like wanting to acknowledge many of the ancestors who are no longer with us.
Oh, I see.
Okay, and so they may be family members, they may be other people, they may be others who have made significant contributions, not only to our individual lives, but to
The
all
world.
people.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will say, Dr. Martin Luther King, or Frederick Douglass, or Jackie Robinson, different folks, okay, who made contributions and, of course, have passed on. But we want to acknowledge that and bring them in.
Are they associate? Are they members of the family, or just
Now, some you can be members.
yeah,
Like I will. I generally
I would say
bring
some
in,
would have mother and father.
Yeah,
or
I
something.
would generally start out by saying I want to acknowledge my mother, Frederica Leake,
right.
and my father, John Leonard Leake. And then somebody else will go on and they will say,
Yes.
we just sort of pass it
Right.
around until we feel like it's, we've sort of exhausted.
Everybody's had their opportunity. Right.
And then we move on to another aspect of our activity. And so now there's one other thing that I don't have represented here, but I want to mention it is we generally have some corn, and it's the dried corn, the husk and all.
Is that popping corn they call it?
Well, not exactly, but there's still, a lot of times you see it around Thanksgiving time, and
Right.
people will use it for different
decoration
and all.
Yeah.
And I've had some for a long time, but I just have to say to you, we've had it so long that they really were rotting pretty badly.
Yeah.
And so this year I had to get rid of it, and I haven't been able to get my new stock. But for us, when we do it, we will have 4 ears of corn. And what that represents is it represents the number of children in our immediate family.
Oh,
So,
I see.
I have 4 children. 3
Represents
sons,
the future.
and a daughter. And yes, and so that's there for.
That's
for us.
acknowledging the future.
Yes.
Well, do they have an opportunity to express themselves?
Oh yes, my children have always made the Kwanzas, and they are
the
acknowledged.
Kwanzas, they can express themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
Basically, what they plan to do.
Oh,
and
they
that
do
type-
just like
and-
everybody else.
And their status, and
Yep.
and really ask for help.
Oh, sure, yeah, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
with the situation like it is now, you know,
yeah, because
the situation, the education, as you know, is out of sight. You know,
that's right. And over the years, as my kids have grown from the standpoint of having been in college,
Right.
and then they've graduated from college, so that they would be saying, well, this
Yeah.
year I will be graduating
Exactly.
from, as my last one said, I'll be graduating from Howard University out of the School of Communication, and I will be hopefully seeking employment.
Right.
And
Exactly.
all, and so others in the room
Everybody
will
has an
know.
opportunity to really plan or let people know basically what status that they're in, and really ask for help in
That's
whatever
right.
thing that they're trying
That they're
to
trying
accomplish.
to do. Yeah. In fact, my daughter, who has been on the program,
Yeah.
on your program, one year she was engaged in a objective that she had, and so it was just getting ready to kick off,
Right.
and she asked for help and assistance
Right.
because she had established
Exactly.
a fundraiser
Right.
type of thing, and so she was asking
For help.
for
Right.
assistance and help. Yes. Oh yeah, it's
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
well. Actually, it's a family-oriented situation where I see where you honor the seniors, and you also give the youngsters an opportunity to express themselves about where they're going and what they're going to do in life.
Oh, and it's so wonderful to hearing the plans of the young people.
Right.
And
you don't limit it to family. It could be anyone.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
because now for us, we very often we have quite a mixture. We will have members who are at our church.
Right,
We will have
right.
members that belong to my wife's sorority.
Right.
There will be friends and work colleagues of both my wife and myself, and friends of my children.
And then you talk about businesses, getting businesses started.
Yes.
where-
In fact, we've had several different ones who come and talk about
Yeah.
the business that they
Well, yeah.
have just
Exactly,
started,
exactly.
and talk about that.
Well, actually, it sounds like a form of information that what you're doing. You're letting a report that you're giving to anyone. What have you accomplished this past year? Say, and what do you need, and how can we help you?
Absolutely.
See?
Absolutely.
See?
It's a sharing. It's hearing the plans and the goals of others, and hearing about, well, I may be able to help you with
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
That's that cooperation. See.
Well, it seems so very important because it's a chance to exchange information
Absolutely.
of what has happened in the past and what we plan to do in the future.
Absolutely.
See,
because it's also talking about we're in the present. We've reflected on the past, and we've got plans for the future.
For the future. Yeah,
Right.
right.
Now, let me just say, as we move on with our celebration, another thing which we do as part of this is after the formal sort of program is over, we then have food to eat. Yeah.
And then you get into eating.
And now we've
Well,
got an opportunity to continue to socialize over food.
Hey,
And so what we do is that we ask everybody who is coming to bring a dish.
Okay. Hey, you've heard here Kwanzaa. You know, a lot of people, they really don't understand, about Kwanzaa. But Kwanzaa is the exchange of information in an environment of happiness. This has been Ed Brown. I want to thank Dr. Lee.